Welcome to this video on how to varnish LEGO minifigures. Before we cover the varnish, I just quickly want to go through the stages on how to prep your minifigure before you paint it. You might have your own way of doing things, but I just want to show you how I do it. So, real quick, let's just go through that. So I start off by disconnecting every piece. So what I do, I just sand all the pieces, one by one, removing any sharp edges. Just try to soften everything, just make it a little bit more rounder. That way the paint will stick on much better. And make sure that you sand down the inner arm area and the torso's side areas, because that's where the friction is going to be when you have varnished it and painted it and all that stuff. So you just want to sand those down a little bit to get some room between the two pieces, obviously. Once I'm done sanding, I just wash all the pieces in water, and then I just leave them to dry. That's it. After that, you can just start painting. Before we get to the lacquers, I want to go through the equipment we'll be using for holding all our different minifigure pieces when we're varnishing. And for the arms, I have 2 toothpicks that I've cut off, which fits nicely into the arms of the minifigures. You can just peg them in right there. And what I did, I put some masking tape around to cover up the connector piece to the torso so we didn't get lacquer on that, because we don't want that to be any thicker or anything, otherwise we won't be able to peg the arm in. So just try to cover that up, and then you're all good to go. For the waist piece, I got a grill stick, which I've cut off the tip of it, so it fits better with the hole, but it doesn't stay there, obviously. So what I've done is just put masking tape around that, so we cover up those connectors when we spray it. And what I usually do, I just put some blue tack on the legs, where the legs peg in, those connectors. Probably the most annoying one to paint and varnish, the waist piece. For the legs, I have glued on Lego heads on grill sticks, and you just place them on there, connect them to the heads, and put blue tack or masking tape over the hole where it pegs into the waist piece. So just cover that up. Masking tape or blue tack works very well. For the torso, I just stick, again, the grill stick, the bottom of the waist piece, right in the middle right there, and it actually fits in very nicely. You don't have to do anything else for it to stay in place. And the same thing there, you just cover up the holes on the side of the arms with blue tack or masking tape. And then you put a Lego head on top of it that you don't care about, or you could just use masking tape around the head connector piece on the torso. I just use a head because it's just easier to cover it up rather than using masking tape. So that's what you can do. To varnish the heads, I stick them on a torso right here that has a Lego head already glued onto it from way back, and I have just a toothpick on it so I can hold it. I usually varnish 3 or 5 heads at the same time. Usually, I want to be efficient about it. And always put disposable head on top, so you don't varnish the head connector piece. Otherwise you will not be able to put on any head piece on them if you varnish that. Now, varnishing head pieces and sculpts, I usually just use, again, barbecue sticks, and I use masking tape and try to make a ball out of it so I can just stick sculpted piece on there. Off you go, just varnish. It's very easy. Just make sure that it's stable, it doesn't come off when you move it slightly, and you should have no problems. So now that's all covered, so let's move on to the varnishing. The lacquers I use are Maston 1 from Finland and Mr. Super Clear from Japan. Now, I'm not sure about the availability of these products around the rest of the world, but if you can get any of these, I recommend for Mastodon you get the satin one. That's the best in my opinion. And for Mr. Super Clear, I recommend the UV cut flat finish. Let's state the obvious. Use every safety precautions. I just don't bother because I just don't care. I'm stupid, I know, I just don't care. You should use gloves, mask, goggles when handling toxic chemicals. And you should always be in a well-ventilated area. And you obviously want to have a box of some sort to catch all the particles that don't end up on the figure. Otherwise you can get pretty dusty or dirty with these little particles from the spray. So make sure you have something that catches up all the excess spray that does not apply to the figure. So when spraying, you do not want to be too close, not too far away, just right. The distance between the can and the figure. Always test spray before you apply to the figure, because you want to see how strong the spray actually is, so you know how to adjust the distance between the figure and the spray. So what I do is that I just do 1 or 2 passes on each side, go around the whole figure, making sure everything is covered. Then I let that rest for about 5 minutes, so it dries up a little bit and it's dry to the touch. After 5 or 10 minutes, you do another coat. Same thing again, 2 passes, make sure the whole thing is covered, go all the way around the figure, or the piece, I should say. Once that's done, let it rest for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then you just do a third one, all the way around. And depending on how much paint you have used, you might actually need a 4th one, just in case. Only if you feel that you really need it. In case you've painted something over and over again, the paint may have been elevated slightly compared to everything else, and a 4th coat won't do any harm. Just if you feel like you've painted too much on a certain area or piece, just add another coat. And once you're done with that, you just let it dry for at least 48 hours. At least 48 hours. Then it's pretty much cured all the way through, and then you move on to the next step. So matting this down is pretty simple, because we only need 1 coat. Always test spray before you apply to the figure, always, so you have an idea of the power of the spray. So you adjust the distance, and then just go ahead and do 1 or 2 passes, making sure everything is covered. 1 coat. Let that sit for 15 minutes and then it's pretty much dust proof. The sheen should start dulling. Sometimes it can take a couple of hours, but once you spray this, just let it rest again for about 24 hours. I think this dries quicker because it's only one coat and it's just on top of everything. So 24 hours usually does the trick for me. And then I assemble the pieces day after. And that's pretty much it. That's all I do when I varnish the figures. This is the process. These are all the tools I use. And so far, so good. I thank you all who stuck through to the very end. I really appreciate it. And I hope I was somewhat helpful in some way. I don't know. But thank you for sticking through. And I'll see you all next time.